What would you do if a single phone call turned your quiet escape into a battlefield? My name is Elias, and all I wanted was a weekend of peace by Lake Wisteria, a shimmering stretch of water tucked away in the hills, far from the chaos of the city. I'd pitched my tent on public land, a spot I'd scouted for weeks, where the stars felt close enough to touch and the world's noise faded to a whisper. But peace, it seems, is a fragile thing when someone like Karen is watching. It was Friday evening, the air thick with the scent of pine and damp earth. I just lit a small campfire, the flames crackling as I leaned back, letting the lake's gentle ripples soothe my soul. I'd been through a brutal year layoffs, a broken engagement, the kind of losses that make you question who you are. This trip was my reset, my chance to breathe. I wasn't hurting anyone. I wasn't breaking any rules. Or so I thought. The first sign of trouble came with the crunch of gravel under tires. Headlights sliced through the dusk, and a woman stepped out of a pristine SUV. She was in her late 40s, blonde hair pulled tight, her face set in a scowl that seemed permanent. She marched toward my tent, phone in hand, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "This is private property," she barked, though I knew it wasn't. I checked the maps, the permits, everything. "You're trespassing, and I'm calling the police." "Ma'am," I said, keeping my voice calm. "This is public land. I have every right to camp here." Her eyes narrowed, and she waved her phone like a weapon. "We'll see about that." She dialed 911, her voice rising as she spun a tale of a dangerous vagrant, threatening her safety. I stood there, stunned, as she painted me as some kind of criminal. Me, a guy with a tent, a cooler, and a dog-eared copy of Walden. The absurdity of it would have been funny if it didn't sting so much. The sheriff arrived 20 minutes later, a tired-looking man named Deputy Harris. He listened to Karen's rant, then turned to me, his expression more exhausted than accusing. I showed him my permits, the map, the proof. He nodded, told Karen there was no issue, and advised her to go home. She stormed off, muttering about entitled drifters. But I could feel her eyes on me, even from a distance. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. The next morning, I woke to find my tent slashed, my cooler overturned, and my fire pit scattered. No proof, of course, but I knew. Karen's house sat on the hill overlooking the lake, a glass and steel monstrosity that screamed wealth and control. She'd been watching me, seething, and this was her retaliation. I could have called the sheriff, but what was the point? No witnesses, no evidence. Just a gut feeling and a ruined weekend. I packed up and left, but the anger stayed with me, simmering like a low-grade fever. Back in the city, I couldn't shake the image of her smug face, her absolute certainty that she could bully anyone into submission. I started digging. Karen Whitaker, I learned, was a real estate agent with a reputation for ruthlessness. She'd bought up half the properties around Lake Wisteria, turning a quiet community into her personal fiefdom. Her latest project? Gentrifying the area, pushing out anyone who didn't fit her vision of class. My tent, it seemed, was an affront to her carefully curated world. That's when I met Lila. Lila was a barista at the coffee shop I frequented, a woman with a quick smile and a story for every customer. She overheard me venting about Karen one morning and leaned in, her voice low. "You're talking about Karen Whitaker? She's the reason my family lost their cabin by the lake. She hounded my dad until he sold, said his place was lowering property values. She's a nightmare." Lila's story wasn't unique. I found others, locals, retirees, small business owners who'd been pressured, manipulated, or outright bullied by Karen. She wasn't just a nosy neighbor. She was a one-woman wrecking ball, reshaping the lake community to suit her ego. And then, Lila dropped a bombshell. Karen's own street, Willow Lane, was up for sale. Not her house, but the entire road, privately owned by a developer who was tired of her complaints and ready to cash out. I don't know what possessed me. Maybe it was the memory of my slashed tent, or Lila's quiet anger, or the stories of all the people Karen had trampled. I had savings more than most, thanks to a tech job I'd held before the layoffs. It wasn't enough to buy a street, but I knew people, investors, Friends from the startup world who owed me favors. I made calls, crunched numbers, and within weeks, I'd done the impossible. I bought Willow Lane. The day I signed the papers, I felt a rush I hadn't known in years. Power, yes, but also justice. I drove back to Lake Wisteria, my heart pounding, and posted the signs myself. Willow Lane. Private property. No public access. Karen's house, along with a handful of others, was now cut off from the main road. Residents could still get in and out barely, but visitors, deliveries, clients? Good luck. I turned her fortress into an island. The fallout was immediate. Karen called the sheriff, the mayor, anyone who'd listen. She screamed about lawsuits, but my paperwork was ironclad. I checked every box, crossed every T. Deputy Harris came by, more amused than anything, and shrugged. "Looks legal to me," he said, tipping his hat. Karen's face was a mask of fury, but for once, she was powerless. I should have felt triumphant. I'd beaten her at her own game, turned her weapon against her. But as I stood by the lake that evening, watching the water reflect the fading light, something twisted in my chest. Lila joined me, her presence a quiet comfort. "You did what no one else could," she said. "You stopped her." "Did I?" I asked, staring at the signs I'd posted. They were petty, vindictive, just like Karen's slashed tires and overturned coolers. I'd sunk to her level, maybe lower. And worse, I dragged others into it, neighbors who hadn't done anything wrong. Now stuck on a street they couldn't easily access. I thought of the kids who lived there, the elderly couple at the end of the lane, the delivery drivers who'd lose income. My revenge wasn't surgical. It was a bomb, and the shrapnel hit more than just Karen. Lila touched my arm, her eyes searching mine. "You didn't know it'd feel like this, did you?" I shook my head. "I thought it'd fix something, make things right." "Sometimes," she said softly, "we think we're fighting monsters, but we just make new ones." I sold Willow Lane a month later, at a loss. The new owner reopened it to the public, and life went back to normal for everyone except me. Karen never apologized, never acknowledged what she'd done. She didn't need to. Her victory was in knowing I'd become someone I didn't recognize, even for a moment. I'd wanted to teach her a lesson, to show her that actions have consequences. Instead, I learned it myself. The lake is still there, as beautiful as ever, but I haven't gone back. I can't. Every time I think of it, I see Karen's face, hear her voice on that 911 call, feel the weight of my own choices. I wanted justice, but all I found was regret. ND.